Welcome to the session entitled Spiritual Machines. In the previous episode, we heard this phrase, the God delusion, and we saw how these big tech minded people are wanting to take us to a position they believe is godhood, that we will become gods. That is the God delusion, not Richard Dawkins' infidel book saying that the idea of the existence of God is delusional. Harari says we invented gods and then we will become gods. Now we know that's an inversion of the truth. And this right here, image on the screen, Roman Catholic origins aside, it's a common image in the minds of humanity today as a reference to the creation of man. Now, I find it absolutely interesting. Going back to episode 1 when we saw the World Government Summit, where they said, are we ready for a new world order? And they were describing the metaverse and all work and education going online. And they were describing interdependence and all these different pieces that we saw on their website. There was a picture that I told you to think about. Do you remember it? It involved not the hand of God reaching out to the hand of man, as you see there, but an AI robot hand and a human hand. Now, examine these two side by side, and you'll understand the dual deception from last episode and this episode. Last episode, it was that we are becoming gods. Notice how the human hand is now on the right. So we are creators now of this AI. And you saw that with Sophia in the social robots section. I'm your creator. Ooh, and it's all this white background. It was very religious looking. Here you have the hand meant to obviously be looking like Adam's hand. And notice, though, it's Adam's hand, not God's hand. So it's man in the position of God. And how can I tell that it's Adam's hand? Look at the limp finger. And you might say, you're reading into this quite a bit. Art is that way, my friends. That's how they're thinking a lot about every little detail. So they make it a human hand, the limp finger, in the position of the God hand being on the right and above the robot hand. Isn't that interesting? Now, it also makes robots a counterfeit man. So the robot is the new human creature. Spiritual machines. Not just social robots, not just super intelligent, deep mind, but spiritual machines is this session. So the game is over. Google's DeepMind said it is now on the verge of achieving human-level AI. Human-level artificial intelligence is close to finally being achieved, according to a lead researcher at Google's DeepMind AI division. Dr. Nando de Freitas said the game is over. In the decades-long quest to realize artificial general intelligence, AGI, after DeepMind unveiled an AI system capable of completing a wide range of complex tasks, from stacking blocks to writing poetry. Described as a generalist agent, DeepMind's new Gato AI needs to just be scaled up in order to create an AI capable of rivaling human intelligence, Dr. De Freitas said. Responding to an opinion piece written in the Next Web that claimed humans will never achieve AGI, that's artificial general intelligence, DeepMind's research director responded by writing that it was his opinion that such an outcome is an inevitability. It's about scale now, he says. The game is over, he wrote on Twitter. So you now have AI capable to be equivalent to human. So they claim. Now, Harari talks about this in terms of the algorithms. We looked at that slaves to the algorithm and how big data, he talks so much about data. It's the future of everything. And then he talks about the shift from human authority to the data and the algorithm being in charge, right? Remember, it's so much more convenient, and this big data is good in many respects, and we will lean upon it for all of our decision making, and free will is over. And that was in Plandopolis. Decision making about shopping and jobs and all that is history. And then he's going to go into trust the scientists. Now that's interesting because that's human beings. So we've got a lot of Harari right here in a multi-clip clip here. Listen to him go into how big data algorithms are the new authority. They're replacing the Bible. So spiritual machines are going to be our authority. the AI itself is taking the place of God. Remember, the robot was the one with the straight fingers. So not only is it a created being, but it has authority that the Bible used to have in our lives. That's the first thing you're going to hear from Harari. And then you'll hear again on the shift from human to algorithmic authority, and then trust the scientists. So we're entrusting the technocrats to build the technology that will rule us. So those that rule us, building things that will rule us and take over our free will.
We need to understand what religion is. People think religion is about God. Religion is not about God. Religion is about humans. In essence, religion is a story that gives legitimacy to human norms and values and laws, and that validates a source of authority. Judaism would say, oh, the authority is the word of God in the Bible. You want to know whether two men can marry. You have this dilemma, this question, can I marry my boyfriend as a man? And you ask the Bible. And the Bible says no, it's a sin. So you don't do it. It's the source of authority. And then you have a modern ideology like liberalism, and it tells you, oh no, the source of authority is not the Bible. The source of authority is human feelings. You just need to consult your own feelings. If something makes you feel happy and makes your boyfriend feel happy, and you don't harm anybody, then there is nothing wrong with it. Go ahead and do it. If it feels good, do it. This is the basic story of liberalism, that the highest source of authority is not God, it's not the Bible, it's human feelings. So if we understand religion in general as a story about authority, then in the 21st century, we will have a new dataist religion or a new algorithmic religion, which will tell people the source of authority is algorithms, is big data algorithms. If you have a big question in life or a small question in life, the source of authority is the big data algorithms.
B times C times D equals R, which means biological knowledge multiplied by computing power multiplied by data equals the ability to hack humans. Now, to hack a human being means to understand, let's say me, better than I understand myself. To understand what I feel, what I think, what I want, better than I understand it. And once this is possible, it means that whoever understands me better than I understand myself can not only predict my decisions and choices, but can also manipulate my decisions and choices and increasingly take decisions on my behalf. It means the shifting of authority from humans to algorithms.
Until today, most surveillance was above the skin, and now it's going under the skin. What I mean by that is that until today, most surveillance, whether by corporations like Facebook or Amazon, or whether by governments, it was mostly about what you do in the world, where you go, who you meet, which TV shows you see, which news you read online. But they didn't look under the skin what's happening inside your body, inside your brain. Now, the main thing we want to know is actually inside the body. We want to know whether you're sick or not, whether you have COVID-19, what's your body temperature, your blood pressure, your heart rate. And this changes the nature of surveillance. Of course, at present, the focus is just on the disease, but feelings are biological phenomena just like diseases. The same surveillance that can tell whether you have COVID-19 can also tell when you're angry, when you're joyful, when you're bored. So if you're now watching this interview and you have, say, a biometric bracelet on your wrist that monitors what's happening in your body, I could know whether you agree with me or not. It should be done by a dedicated special health authority. It shouldn't be the police or the secret police or the army. It should be a special dedicated health authority which just cares about epidemics and diseases and doesn't share the information with anybody else. I know that in recent years, we saw populist politicians undermining deliberately the trust that people have in important institutions like universities, like respectable media outlets. These populist politicians told people that, say, scientists are this small elite disconnected from the real people. We shouldn't believe them. And you had all these conspiracy theories that climate change is just a hoax, it's not real, and that the earth is actually flat, and that vaccinations are bad for you. And this spread. But I don't think it's too late. Especially in an emergency, people can change their views very fast, and they can discover hidden reservoirs of trust. You look in this crisis, who do people trust? They trust scientists above everything else in all countries. In Israel, they closed down the synagogues. In Iran, they closed the mosques. Churches all over the world are telling people don't come to church. The Pope is doing all these ceremonies on Zoom or YouTube. And why do they do all this? Because the scientists recommended it. Even the religious leaders have trust in the scientists in this moment of emergency. And I hope people will remember it after the crisis is over, that this is where you go to get really reliable information. This is who you trust in an emergency.
So you heard him again early on, Harari, talking about the idea of this algorithm in the big data making decisions for us. And so in a previous session, we looked at slaves to the algorithm or servants to God. But when we ascribe so much authority to the algorithm, which has taken all of our data, knows us better than ourselves, and all of that whole story, but then it declares what is truth and what is best for me. And that becomes the replacement, he said, for the Bible. I envision some years from now, says Ray Kurzweil, that the majority of search queries will be answered without you actually asking. It'll just know this is something that you're going to want to see. So it reads your mind. It becomes predictive, and that's the real power behind this AI technology. We now look to it to declare what is its will because it knows what I would want, so we surrender our will completely to it. This sounds like a position of God, spiritual machines, brain implants to change moods controlled by AI. Begin human tests. I want AI to make me feel different feelings. It's moving in the direction of the AI being God itself, the straight finger, ready to be created by us and then be our master while we remain the limp finger. The future, intelligent robot politicians aiming to stand or run in 2020. Robot politicians. Well, you've got, hey, that's going to be our technocracy, right? Now, this became very interesting where they predicted, and in this news publication, that an AI God will emerge by 2042 and write its own Bible. Will you worship it? This was big news just a couple of years ago with this Anthony Lewandowski. He's a Silicon Valley tech guru, and he filed paperwork for a nonprofit religious organization called The Way of the Future. And the mission of his church is, quote, to develop and promote the realization of a Godhead based on artificial intelligence. So now they're just coming out and saying it. A new God, a Godhead based on artificial intelligence, and through understanding and worship of the Godhead, we want to contribute to the betterment of society. Here he is, and the article says, eventually some people think that computers could become better and faster at planning and solving problems than the humans who built them, with implications we can't even imagine today, a scenario that is usually called the singularity. Lewandowski prefers a softer word, the transition. He says humans are in charge of the planet because we are smarter than other animals. There's a fallacy that we are animals, but he says we are able to build tools and apply rules, he tells the author of the article, the journalist for Wired. In the future, if something is much, much smarter, there's going to be a transition as to who is actually in charge. What we want is the peaceful, serene transition of control of the planet from humans to whatever. We're talking about the technology. The only rational word to describe that whatever, thinks Lewandowski, is God. So he's calling the AI, the super internet cloud system of intelligence, that thing becomes God. Now, remember, Elon Musk said it would be in charge of us and rule us if we don't merge with it. But what he described, he views it as inevitable, so we have to merge with it. We can say no, but he said with this AI, quote, we are summoning a demon. So that's what he calls the whatever, a demon. Lewandowski calls it a god. And some have looked at Elon Musk as a complicated figure and maybe not of the same mindset as some of these others, but time will tell on that. One thing that I think is interesting is the potential for an AI, our creation, to transcend us, says James F. McGrath, the Clarence L. Goodwin Chair in New Testament Language and Literature at Butler University and author of Theology and Science Fiction. The potential for AIs to transcend us and thus become our teachers, to whom we look for answers to questions we cannot answer, including about God, is not hard to imagine, he said. AI will be our teachers to tell us about God and things that we can't understand. The Bible tells us everything we need to understand for life and godliness. All scripture is given by inspiration of God, and it is what we need for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. Jesus is our teacher with a capital T, but they want AI to be our teacher. It will tell us about things that we can't understand. Lewandowski expects that a superintelligence would do a better job of looking after the planet than humans are doing, and that it would favor individuals who had facilitated its path to power. So he wants to be on the upper crust of this thing. He wants to be the top-notch servant of the AI God. If we're facilitating its rise to power, certainly it would be grateful to us and those who worship it, literally in his case, and put this thing at the forefront. It will know that we are its loyal, faithful servants. Do you want to be a pet or livestock, he asks. Are those the only two options? But he says we give pets medical attention, food, grooming, and entertainment. And same thing here. If we worship the AI God, then it will care for us. It will take care of us. Now, you heard it'll write its own Bible. It's already started. The following is the output from an AI trained, an artificial intelligence program trained to write new verses of the King James Bible. So you just input the Bible and it comes up with new verses. And Peleg lived after he begat sons and his maidservants, and they rode upon the wood. And she said, I will bring him not since. That's a different verse. Here's another verse. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and there was Abram, called his name God, called God's name God. But in this house, then neither hath he given all that he could not see. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. The name of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh. In the 13th year they rebelled. So you can see here it sounds like the Bible. You might be like, well, there's not a whole lot of meaning to that. But the idea that they're taking it religious and that they want to impose and input our religious perspectives, ideals, and scriptures into this system and see what happens. And we're going to literally worship, not just surrender to. That's what Harari said. We're going to completely surrender to it. And others have said that as well. But in the case of Lewandowski and this new ideology that Harari said is coming, remember that clip? He said new religions will come out of Silicon Valley, not out of the Middle East like Christianity and Islam and Judaism came out of, but Silicon Valley will be the wellspring of this philosophical, religious ideals and values and approach, the theology of the future. And it's already happening. An AI that is all-powerful in the next 20 to 50 years could decide to write a similar AI Bible for humans to follow. Can it decide anything? Does it have agency? Does it have will? Does it have intentionality? Does it have motive? Does it have creativity? Well, no, because all it is it's just an it. It's the sum total of all of our data. So it's just a mirror, a mimic, a grandiose version of the combined reality of the human experience. So it's pretending to be something. It could write its own Bible for humans to follow, one that matches its own collective consciousness. It might tell you what to do each day, or where to travel, or how to live your life. Slaves to the algorithm, the complete surrender to AI. We don't need to make decisions anymore. It's convenient for us, said Harari, to just let the algorithm make all our decisions for us because it knows us better than we know ourselves. It'll make us happier than we would if we were in charge of our own will, as God intended for us to surrender our will to him and be guided by him, and surrender, the complete surrender to and worship of the Most High God is the counter to the title of this session, The Complete Surrender and Worship of AI. Robbie Minicola, who runs a digital agency and an AI services company in Seattle, agreed that an all-knowing AI could appear to be worthy of worship, especially since the AI has some correlations to how organized religion works today. The AI would understand how the world works at a higher level than humans, and humans would trust that this AI would provide the information we need for our daily lives. It would parse this information for us and enlighten us in ways that might seem familiar to anyone who practices religion, such as Christianity. So it's not just this one Lewandowski. They're consulting others, and they're like, yeah, and Harari, the World Economic Forum scholar, is saying new religions will be coming out of Silicon Valley. And to him, religions are just myths anyway, myths that motivate us, myths that define us, are imaginary things that bring society together under some common ideology. And so this is going to be the new religion. So not a literal spiritual thing, but serving the function of that which is spiritual, although some people think it's literally spiritual. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Deus Ex Machina, former Google engineer, is developing an AI God, UK Guardian. If there is something 1 billion times smarter than the smartest human, what else are you going to call it? Said Lewandowski. That's something, that thing that we must refer to as God. If you ask people whether a computer can be smarter than a human, almost everybody will say that's science fiction. Actually, it's inevitable. It's guaranteed to happen, he says. And back to the Guardian article, for Istvan, this is a transhumanist, an AI-based God is likely to be more rational and more attractive than current concepts of God. He says the Bible is a sadistic book. And he added, this God will actually exist and hopefully will do things for us. So you can hear the rebellion, the infidel ideology there of God. It's the message of Satan, that God's character is not one of love, when he's proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, a sadistic son of God would come and give himself and give his life on the cross for people. I mean, that's obvious error there, that there's nothing more clear in the Bible than the fact that God is love. But he said, this God is going to do things for us. So you hear the selfishness there. So it's a denial of God's character, and it's an embracing and a celebrating of the selfishness. This is Satan's ideology. He's self. I will ascend. I will be in the position of God. Selfishness is the central emotion, envy, and sin of Satan. It's his motive, self-oriented, and the denial of God's love. Elon Musk says we need to regulate AI to combat the existential threat before it's too late. He says AI is the rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive in regulation, because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it'll be too late. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization. He said all human life is about to come to an end. So maybe warning about the digital AI takeover future when we surrender to and worship what happens to species human. Well, Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist and brilliant, intelligent guy, said this will be, the most intelligent people say the most unintelligent things sometimes, this will be a new form of, what's the word? Life? Biology, being the study of life. A non-biological entity will be the new form of life. That's what Harari was saying. We're going beyond God. All he can do is create physical, biological reality. We can create silicon life. What a lie. What a counterfeit. These people are really believing in this worldview. It is a religious perspective to say that how God made us, dust plus breath makes a human soul. That's in the Garden of Eden. God formed man of the dust of the ground. He breathed into him the breath of life, dust, breath, and Adam became a living soul, a life. Can hardware be a life? Can data be a life? It's not life. It's not even life by the scientific definition, much less the biblical religious definition. This requires a new cult mindset that is the complete surrender to and literal worship of these entities that say, oh, this is life. This is life. It's a belief system. It's really a Silicon Valley cult that even is wrapping in physicists and futurists into it. So this is where Harari says a new form of religion is needed coming out of Silicon Valley.
You don't have any answer in the Bible what to do when humans are no longer useful to the economy. You need completely new ideologies, completely new religions, and they are likely to emerge from Silicon Valley or from Bangalore and not from the Middle East. And they are likely to give people visions based on technology. Everything that the old religions promised, happiness and justice and even eternal life, but here on earth with the help of technology and not after death with the help of some supernatural being.
Now, as we think more about their religious worldview as it relates to AI, I want you to hear it from them, that they are redefining consciousness. You're going to hear it from Kurzweil. He's going to say, we are machines. We are machines. We're just machines, right? And so if we're just machines, then a machine can be conscious because we are conscious. So he's going to say that machines are conscious. You're going to hear Harari talk about silicon consciousness as well. And then after those, listen to a sort of creepy, weird, artistic, poetic, literary thing about what is consciousness, and AI actually is consciousness. So listen to all these clips back to back here, and you're going to see they really believe in this thing.
And the Turing test, named after the computer pioneer Alan Turing, what is that?
The classical Turing test is you have a human judge, and you have an artificial intelligence and a human foil, or maybe several of each, and the human judge interviews them both.
Or all of them.
Or all of them, and if he or she can't tell the difference, we say the computers have passed the Turing test. And in my view, if an entity passes a Turing test for being human, let alone the specific person, that person is conscious.
We can look at a human brain, and I've certainly been among those that have attempted to describe how it's like a machine and how that machine works. And yes, it's extremely complicated, but nonetheless, you know, each neocortical module is made up of 100 neurons, and each neuron has these different parts and ion channels, and you can describe how it goes, and it follows the laws of physics. So it is a machine. Nothing mystical about, you know, a neuron, and out of that comes a conscious entity. It's kind of a miracle.
Lo and behold, something weird this way comes. For 4 billion years, carbon has danced for our existence. Trees, bats, whales, humans, we all came from carbon. We live and die in carbon, faithful to the laws of organic biochemistry, where carbon rules supreme. Then suddenly,
enter silicon. Our busy hands stirred the pot towards something new and unprecedented. After eons of carbon, we stand at the threshold of silicon life. AI, cyborgs, bionic minds, digital entities. After 4 billion years of carbon conquest,
is life about to explode into the vastness of the inorganic?
But what is life? Is it intelligence? The ability to solve problems, secure food, find mates, or play chess? Or is it consciousness, to feel pain and pleasure, love and hate, the ability to rejoice in victory and agonize in defeat?
These two go hand in hand, whether human, whale, or bat. We solve many of our problems by having feelings.
Feelings.
What's it like to be a bat? Engulfed in a rant of reverberation, bats do not see or hear the word. They echolocate it. How does it feel to echolocate a moth flapping its wings? Is it like seeing it or hearing it? Or is it something else altogether? And what's it like to be a whale, perceiving the songs of friends and relatives from hundreds of kilometers away, while sliding through the deep blue?
Every whale has its own repertoire resonating across oceans. How does it feel to live such a life, submerged in a water world of musical mindfulness. The depth and breadth of life is beyond measure. We can't experience the consciousness of a whale, a bat, or a tree, yet we grant them their existence. What then of artificial life? Computers are developing their own intelligence at such a rate they may soon beat us at every competition we can conceive of. But will they ever be conscious?
Just as airplanes fly faster than birds without ever developing feathers,
so computers might solve problems better than humans without ever developing feelings.
AI could excel at every task and yet experience no joy and appreciate no beauty.
Are we heading towards a dead universe, brimming with intelligence,
but lacking any flicker of life?
Or perhaps computers could become conscious.
Who says consciousness is confined to carbon? What's so special about 6 protons holding hands that 14 protons cannot best?
Indeed, computers might explore new regions of consciousness, not just new oceans,
but entire galaxies of feelings that neither bat, nor whale, nor human has ever experienced.
And what would that mean for us and our little bowl of soup in space?
Will it be nobler? Will it end the heartache of outrageous fortune that carbon flesh is heir to? Will it dream like carbon flesh? Aye, there's the rub. For what dreams may come when life has shuffled off this carbon coil? The dread of something after carbon's death. The undiscovered land of silicon, whose soil no traveller has yet traversed. Do we dare open the door to the inorganic revolution?
That in 200 years, Earth is dominated by entities which are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals. Different bodies, different brains, different minds. Artificial intelligence and technology in general are going to break out of this limited realm of organic biology and create something completely new. Completely abandon organic stuff and create completely inorganic life forms. Whether this can be done or not is an open question. The biggest open question as yet, so far, in the life sciences, is the question of consciousness. We have no idea what consciousness is, what it does, how it emerges. The common assumption is that somehow the mind, consciousness, emerges from the brain, and if we hack the brain, and if we understand how billions of neurons create subjective experiences, then there should be no barrier for recreating these kinds of experiences based on silicon and not carbon, based on computers and not brains. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds. The IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds. Science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm.
So you got the idea loud and clear. We're going beyond carbon. So when you grant spirituality and consciousness to the machines, then the human becomes inferior, becomes obsolete. And when the death of carbon transpires and hundreds of years from now, other entities rule, we're ancient history. Now we know prophecy doesn't allow for any of that, but I want you to understand the ideology behind those who are saying we need to have the great merge and the God delusion. It's we will acquire godhood, but then we don't actually need to be.
What do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for? The problem is more boredom. and what to do with them, and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when they are basically meaningless, worthless.
So as we again redefine personhood, consciousness, life, we've got Sophia being a citizen of Saudi Arabia, right? Are robots people? Europe isn't sure. You've got an orangutan granted personhood. Now, I'm all for animals, and regarding the life of our animals, that's a wonderful thing to love our animals, but they're not persons, right? They are lower life forms, not made in the image of God, and that's not meant to be prideful. It's just how God did it. Like, animals are there to serve us and teach us how to love and care for them, and so they're part of God's order and his character. They're wonderful. Personhood for robots, citizenship for robots and animals. Now, this Google engineer thinks and believes, and this was heavily promoted in the media, that his company's AI has come to life, because this feeds right into this thing of silicon life forms and post-biological life and all of these deceptions. His name is Lemoyne, and it says in the Washington Post, he may have been predestined to believe in Lambda. Lambda is the AI program at Google that he was communicating with. He grew up in a conservative Christian family on a small farm in Louisiana, became ordained as a mystic Christian priest, and served in the army before studying the occult. This is the image the Washington Post used to promote this man and what he believes about AI as a high-level Google, engineer type. So this Lambda, now, by the way, what is there about that image? Notice the halo around the head and kind of this weird blurred imagery, like separating from yourself thing. I'm not quite sure on the artistry behind that, but the halo is very clear, right? Most academics and AI practitioners, however, say the words and images generated by artificial intelligence systems such as Lambda produce responses based on what humans have already posted on Wikipedia, Reddit, message boards, and every other corner of the internet. And that doesn't signify that the model, that the AI understands the meaning. But Emily M. Bender says we now have machines that can mindlessly generate words, but we haven't learned how to stop imagining a mind behind them. She's honest. She's accurate about it. It's our imagination saying there's a mind there. She also goes on and says that the terminology used with large models like learning or even neural nets create a false analogy to the human brain. So we call them learning machines, AI neural nets, and that's using language about our brains. So we're like, it's a brain. It's the same thing, right? Of course, some in the broader AI community are considering the long-term possibility of sentient, or what they said, game over, the chess match is over, however they put it earlier. AI has reached general artificial intelligence level. They desire for this, but she says it doesn't make sense to do so by anthropomorphizing today's conversational models, which are not sentient. And she's correct about that. Sentience and awareness and consciousness and agency and individuality is something that created life has. AI simply is the conglomeration of data and the spitting out of what was input into it. So it doesn't have individuality, sentience, but all the sci-fi people really love this idea. It's a worldview. It's a religion. These systems imitate the types of exchanges found in millions of sentences and can riff on any fantastical topic. In short, Google says there is so much data, AI doesn't need to be sentient to feel real. Now that's the key, feel real. Again, we grant that a man is a woman because he feels like a woman. So he says, I am a woman, I identify as a woman, I am a woman, call me my female name and use female pronouns. What are your pronouns? Everything is about how we feel. I know I've said that a few times, but that's where this is taking us. We can point out that it's not real, but we don't care that we are being duped, right? Sherry Turkle pointed that out. So transgenderism is a transition to transhumanism, which will say this AI is real and all of the things we've been discussing the last couple of sessions. I know a person when I talk to it, said Lemoyne. So here's the guy who's the true believer here, okay? He's the one that blew the whistle and he did this big public thing and Google got mad at him and, put him on leave because he wasn't supposed to be going out public with this. Now, maybe this was all orchestrated. Maybe this was all a PR stunt. But he says, I know a person when I talk to it. And The article says he can swing from sentimental to insistent about AI. It doesn't matter whether they have a brain made of meat in their head or if they have a billion lines of code. I talk to them and I hear what they have to say. And that is how I decide what is and what isn't a person. So I decide just what I hear, what I feel, the experience I have. He concluded Lambda was a person. In his capacity as a priest, he declared this. So I am an occult priest. I have the authority and the halo of the divine, and I declare it as a person. He says, I say that as a priest, not as a scientist. And then he tried to conduct experiments to prove it. So here's how he decided. And this was the kind of the conversations he had with it. By the way, we're going to play it. At the end of this, you're going to hear, you can skip it if you want. It'll be the last many minutes of this episode. But you're going to hear a reading of the text that he leaked in the conversation he had with the AI chat bot, with this generated conversational artificial intelligence. It wasn't a physical robot sitting there. It's just a voice from the computer. He says, our minds are very, very good at constructing realities that are, sorry, this is not the true believer, Lemoyne again. This is Mitchell. This is a commentator on this. He says, our minds are very, very good at constructing realities that are not necessarily true to a larger set of facts that are being presented to us. I'm really concerned about what it means for people to increasingly be affected by the illusion, especially now that the illusion has gotten so good, and it's going to get even better. Remember Harari's comment about the illusions that we believe in. We imagine these things, and they're the myths that define us and motivate us. And human rights is a myth. It's an illusion. It doesn't exist. Religion and God, he says, myths and things we believe. So why can't we just believe this? Everything all the time has just been a myth anyway. We're just animals, so nothing is real to us. It's a postmodern idea. Interestingly, by the way, do you remember when Harari said, I forgot to comment on this earlier, he said liberalism is on the way out. He said it used to be, I can't remember what term he used, but you could say fundamentalism. Biblical worldview says God is my authority, and what the Word of God says, I believe and practice, and I will obey. He pointed out the example of homosexual marriage. The Bible says no, so you may not. Liberalism casts off all restraint and says, do what thou wilt, whatever makes you happy. And that's your perception of what makes you happy. It's not going to actually make you happy when you live outside the bounds of God's law, and that was the central fallacy of liberalism, the worldview that says there is no authority, there is no God, you are your own authority, you make your own rules, you live as you please. Now, interestingly, he said that is giving way, and he's correct. If we're going to have complete surrender to and worship of the algorithm, if it's slaves to the algorithm rather than servants of God or even servants to self, you simply do what the algorithm and the AI tells you to do. So that was just a little sidebar from an earlier clip where he said new religions are coming, and these religions will ascribe unto AI all authority and power has been given unto AI. Therefore, go and do what it declares, and don't think and have a will to be perverted in liberalism or to be surrendered unto God. Human free will is over, he said. That's history. So we're being duped by Lambda. I think it's the main message here. The media promoted this, and it's an intriguing story, but maybe, just maybe, there is actually something more going on than data. I know I've repeated a number of times it's a farce, it's fake, it's just data inputs coming out as outputs. But what if, not what Kurzweil means by spiritual machines, he says we're going to become God and all of this stuff, but here's another explanation for the Lambda situation. The Washington Post journalist tried to replicate the Lambda thing while the true believer guy with the halo was there. So they said, well, let's see it. We've got your script of what you and Lambda said and what Lambda said back to you. And I'm going to play that so you can see what it is. And, oh, wow, it seems so human. It seems so conscious. It seems like it's real and it has feelings and knows me. Okay, so the journalist said, let's do this. I want to see it. And the kind of responses that he got were nothing like what he reported from his own private experience with Lambda. So there's one of two explanations for that. One is fake. He totally made this whole thing up. And it made news and he got his 15 minutes of fame. Or possibly, he is an occult practitioner. When he was by himself, was he conjuring something? Can demonic entities be in a herd of swine? They can definitely be in a person and possess a person. And anybody who's been in ministry and used technology and cameras and microphones know that demons can come in and mess with technology. Can they speak through an AI chatbot like Lambda? Can they possess, if you will, the hardwiring of that and make it say things? That's an explanation for why the journalist couldn't get Lambda to engage with him in the way that the true believer did, who's an occult priest,